KCE, King Chaka.
You scaring me. So it says in first 2024 campaign swing, Abbott turns to school culture wars to boost support for vouchers. Houston Chronicle posted this. It says, as the outlook for the school voucher push grew increasingly bleak last fall, Governor Greg Abbott warned lawmakers he would go the hard way if needed, all out war with anti voucher holdouts in the Republican primaries. But in his first campaign stops aimed to boosting support for vouchers in the Texas House, Abbott spent only a couple of minutes on his signature policy, part of a stump speech that touched on a laundry list of issues from property taxes to guns. The biggest applause lines came when Abbott turned to immigration and school culture wars. The dynamic points to a key challenge Abbott faces in March primaries as he targets more than a dozen Republican lawmakers who rejected his push last year to give parents taxpayer dollars to send their kids to private schools. The issue, while broadly supporting the GOP voters, this is not a top of mind priority for many polling shows. Abbott is getting around the lack of enthusiasm for by focusing instead on public schools as a breeding ground for liberal ideas, a framing that has animated conservatives across the country. So yeah, political year coming around. So you use the buzzwords that work, you know, and he's got this personal vendetta related to the vouchers, and I think that there's money related to that, benefits that he personally get that motivates him in that particular area with the vouchers. But the whole thing with the border and the culture wars in the schools, you know, the liberals are taking over our schools. Those are the two hot button ones that work for getting people out to the polls. So he knows what his bread and butter is. Let's read some comments.
It's I guess other politicians need to figure out where theirs is and try to get their try to get their push instead of just trying to demonize him to just go on and show where the benefits are to not have are going in a different direction than what he's speaking. I mean, I think that's one of the major problems with our politicians is the fact that they instead of showing a clear cut reason or plan or what's going to work because basically what they've been doing hadn't been, and him going with a different route doesn't mean that it's kicking out public schools, but for those who want to use that program, I think it should be available. Because I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
they're all paying taxes, and some of those funds should be able to be used for their kids to go to whatever school that they choose, instead of trying to make laws that, oh well, you live here, you have to do this.
well,
Like I
if
mean,
you have the money to put your kid in a private school, then you're gonna do that. You don't need no freaking school vouchers to have anything with that. And
but some
historically, that's the way it has gone.
well, the same people, the same conversation that you had last night about every dollar makes a difference. I mean, for some of these people are not necessarily rich, but they wish they could put their kids in a private school, and that monies that the vouchers would provide would at least help.
They still not gonna be able to if they can't afford to put their
Sometimes
kid
it
in a
makes
private
all the
school.
difference in the world.
The,
What?
these
Some of those little Montessori schools take just the amount of the voucher is all
that's
you
not the
need because
case for.
they not
Because of
for
their
all of
population,
them,
because their
but it is for
population will grow. They
some.
already got
Look it
teachers that they're
up.
paying. Some of them will do that, and that's because like they're already paying for the teachers, and then they're able to bring in extra income because they have a bigger population of kids in their school. I mean, it really a lot of times like it's not changing unless they just get a drastic change. All of the everybody is trying to move, but everybody's not trying to move. Everybody doesn't care about their children's
And
schooling
everybody
to
don't
begin
have the
with.
means to do all of that.
Yeah, even the ones who have the means, a lot of them still don't care because they're just following whatever the government say they got to do. None of them are asserting their own rights, and the reason why we are losing the ones that we have is because a lot of parents are just like, well, the easy way out is their way out. So I mean, regardless, I believe that that should be available for those who are going to use it. Everybody's not.
Let's read some comments.
Believe it or not, most parents don't care about what's going on with their school. Just as long as the teachers are, are satisfied with what they're doing, they could care less if they passing or failing.
How can you make that? Where would you get that information to state that? Like
Because
most parents
well,
don't care about what their kids. I mean, like,
all right, all right. I'm gonna say a lot then, because I mean, that's just how I see. Yeah, there's kids that's they're proud of they're proud of their kids making certain grades, but some of them still don't even know how to do regular just math problems. So they're really not learning anything. They're just getting grades that says that they're doing fine.
let me read some comments. It says, corrupt Texas governor takes $6 million bribe in order to dismantle free public education. Fixed your headline for you. Another comment, it says, government Hot Wheels loves to point fingers and pass blame. Liberal school ideology, yeah, because conservative Christian values are so great. The right loves to preach less government involvement until they want to dictate how parents parent, how teachers teach, and what women can do with their bodies. Another comment, it says, never trust a politician trying to privatize your system. Didn't you all learn from the power grid issue and lawsuits?
Bro. Okay. Well, you know what? The people, I think, and this is going. I'm expressing my opinion here. I mean, and they have every right to express their feelings, but a lot of those people that's upset about this is those who do not want to assert their own rights, and making sure that their children are, even because the public schools are not teaching them what they, bro, like if we compared what the kids in this country are learning compared to what kids around the world are with their public education, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah. So, and
Like
these schools are doing a better job.
in
Where's the
other
data to
countries,
support that? We're
what
not
in
talking
other
about other
countries,
countries. We're talking about here.
I am because we should be ashamed because that's the competition. Like the rest of
Yeah,
the world
but
is,
Where's the
but
data to prove that they're not? You're the one making the accusations that they're not doing it. Show
but
us.
no,
my
but
my
listen,
my, my argument is
when we have to change, what, like if we keep lowering the expectations of our children every turnaround because the teachers are not teaching what the children need to know or learn, if for them to be competitive even against each other in this same country, not to even say that the globalist country that we're being
and
introduced to. So we're gonna have a whole, like, there's only the only children that's gonna be able to compete are the ones who actually have parents who are putting them in competitive positions.
yeah, so
So public school is not doing it. So for
but the
parents who
private schools are.
are
Is that
they're
what
in,
you're saying?
yes, I would say that they're in better positions because there's at least an expectation. There's the private schools are not the ones that's being, that's changing their standards of, have lowering their standards of what the children need to learn. It's the public schools that's doing it.
I don't know where we're getting this from. I think that's all straight political.
You think, or are you gonna tell me where that's a lie?
I'm saying, where do you have information or data to support
Because
Where do you
where
have
is that coming
information
from?
to support that they're not doing? You're the one that accuses them of not being better. Okay.
And
And
my
the
argument here,
bottom line is the bottom line is the reason people are pursuing private education is because public education has been lowering the bar and complicating things further and further every year. And you've seen it, too, all the public testing. This is an argument that you're on the same side I am on this. They've been lowering the bar so much, people seek a better education, a better curriculum, one
and
more
and
in
and
tune towards success than just going out and becoming a person who is a worker in a society.
and it's been a
An education that teaches you to use critical thinking rather than a minimum amount of knowledge, and then releases you in the public with no ability to actually function or any ways that have been taught to think critically other than just memorize data.
And it's been a continued agenda to dismantle the public school system and to siphon funds from the public school system to leave inner city poor kids behind so that there'll be the school to prison
Dude,
pipeline.
it's like a broken record. It's like a broken record,
Let-
man.
it's true. Let me read some more comments. It says Abbott, Paxton, and Patrick should be locked up. Another one, it says the fight over vouchers in Texas is coming to a head. It is more than just Wilkes and Dunn. Other billionaires are playing too. Jeff Yes donated $6 million to Abbott. Vouchers aren't about kids. It's about money, religion, and race. One more comment. It says in states where they've done student vouchers, 80% of the students on vouchers were already in private schools. It's a scam to take money from public schools and give it to affluent, already attending private schools. I say this as a blue collar kid who also went to private schools from 5th through 12th grade on scholarships. Vast majority of the money will not go to kids who actually need it because parents will still not be able to afford most private schools even with the vouchers. And private schools will jack up their tuitions to keep their schools competitive, i.e., free of undesirables.
Tell you what, because I mean, what I think, I think it's old. Honestly, I could care less because I prefer to teach my kid at home, which that's what I'm gearing myself to anyway. But and have a tutor from time to time. But however, these parents, these parents that's sending their kids to school, and all the because they live in the districts with these, right along with the rest of them, their kid goes to private school. I know my sister went to private school. Like the tax is still like some of their money is still going to schools that's not even benefiting these kids that's forced to go there. So, I mean, for those, that can afford or not afford, I mean, that maybe there could be a system that they could come up with that would be more, make the public schools more competitive, have, teachers who actually are going to teach the children, but then at the same time, they don't want to pay them. So they don't have a reason to do more than what they've been doing. These private schools, I mean, I think that dynamic is a little bit different. So j- just just to, if you want to talk about fairness, the monies that's going into a public school that people have to pay for no matter what, regardless if these kids go to the public school or not, and you giving them an option to defer or to supplement some of the schooling, I don't think this is like just a bad deal. So
I talked
regardless,
to a teacher who was she was retired. She teach like 40 years or some shit. And she told me that you make more money as a teacher in the public school system than in the private school system. This is what
I'm
this
sure
lady
that's
told
in,
me.
I'm sure that's in some cases, but I
And
can't
and
speak on that one way or the other, but my assumption is that for whatever reason, these public schools, these things are working a little bit more because of the expectations that they have within the teachers and the students. So they're doing the process. There's a process that's happening in these private schools that's just not happening in our in our, let's just say, the majority, because some of the public schools are doing fine, but very few.
yeah, there are some public schools that Cy-Fair, my youngest is in the Cy-Fair school district. It's like number two in the state,
But
and it blows
mhm,
out the numbers in a lot of these private schools. They
okay,
are really
yeah,
really performing very well. Okay,
yes.
so whenever people make those blanket statements about public school system sucking,
But
it's
we're talking
it's
about,
it's
generally. We're talking about for the most part because it's not working out for. the majority of students.
It,
And
and it, a lot of it has
and
to
we're
do with
talking
the
about state,
neighborhoods that these
no,
kids live in. Part of it has to
but
do
that
with how
shouldn't
the
matter.
tax system
But
works because of
that's an
the
excuse. See,
funding.
I think,
The funding comes from the property taxes. So if you're in
okay,
a neighborhood that has, houses that are worth more, then there's more money going into the school system
I hear what you're saying.
in that particular district. So
I
that's
understand.
part of the issue, that because that's a baseline issue that has been baked into the system,
Well,
to provide for more affluent neighborhoods, and not have resources for the inner city kids, for the poorer neighborhoods. And so,
well,
what are your comments related to this comment where he says, in the states where they've done student vouchers, 80% of the students on vouchers were already in private schools. So the whole that fights against the whole argument of the vouchers, because it's supposed to be for school or parents' choice, for
well,
them to be able to decide to put their kid where they want to be or
well,
whatever. But
I
these
think
are
it's
already kids that are already in private school,
listen,
80% of them.
listen. It is assumed that because you send a kid to private school is that you're rich. That's not the case, bro. These are people who are just willing to invest more in their children. And because they are trying to separate them from some of the BS and what school they might end up in the just because of where they live, they take the chance and they spend money that they may not have. So regardless if those kids were already in that school, because my dad was not rich, he was, he sent my sister to private school because of what he was trying to keep her from having to deal with in their area, the area that they live in. So it's just assumed that because they were going to a private school. I know guys that lived in the neighborhood I grew up in. Their parents were sending them to private school, and it got to a point where they just couldn't afford it no more, and they end up at the public school, and then they fooling around with people like me now. That's doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to
So,
I'm
but what
but what I'm trying to say is the whole idea that just because they was in a private school doesn't mean that they didn't need the money too.
Yeah, but the numbers are showing that this overwhelmingly benefits people who have those resources. So, what about the ones who don't? You're saying the people that may or may not have, the money to spend. What about the ones that there ain't no may to it? They don't have it. They live check to check. They don't
hmm
have any expendable income. They don't have any money to send their children to another school other than public schools. It's all the way out of the
Well,
option.
well,
That
well,
was
I'm
the
gonna tell
case
you.
for me.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, some of them might need to, like find some time to go argue with the school board, the people, to make it where that they actually do teach the kids what they're supposed to teach them, and to stop trying to focus on things that's not. And then that's the whole thing with these public schools. They're trying to implement things that is not necessarily natural, and so that's one of the other
And
reasons why
that's why I
some
have a
people.
problem with this rhetoric, because it leads to
I
this
don't care.
situation that Abbott is on, where he's basically siphoning the resources from the public schools and sending them to the private schools, and that's
No,
what
he
makes
no
the
he is
compounds the situation
listen.
and makes
No,
it
you're looking
worse.
at it the wrong way because he's trying to provide. Because, like I just said, all of these people, uh, are not as rich as you think, or have as much money as you think. Allowing citizens the ability to have some funding that they have put money into through taxes to be able to use for their kids schooling, instead of them having to pay the full amount that they would pay, and never get to receive the benefits of the taxes that they pay for their kids going to school.
This
Like
comment, it says
everybody.
vast majority of the money will not go to kids who actually need it, because parents will still not be able to afford most private schools even with the vouchers. And
No,
private
see,
schools will jack up their
listen to this.
tuitions to keep the schools competitive, i.e., free from undesirables.
I
This
hear.
is what's really happening. Like, the rest of that
Is
shit
it?
is just bullshit.
Is
It's
it?
all it's It's a situation. It's a racial situation, and that's
Is it?
just what it is.
No.
Period.
So you mean to tell me? So it's a class and a racial. If this same situation was going on with my sister being in school, that's her being able to be able to use some of the funds that is gonna my dad would be paying in taxes anyway, because he didn't have the chance to do that, because he just had to suck it up and say, all right, my kid is not going to this school, and I'm just gonna have to figure out a way to get this thing paid so she can go to a decent school. So that this thing wasn't available during the time when she was in private school. And like I said, he didn't have the benefit of being able to supplement like what they're trying to do now. And that's because there's selfishness on other people, that they want to send money to a school that's still not providing the things that each and every kid needs, and trying to indoctrinate kids in a way that's just not really fair, and what the parents don't want for their children. Like, bro, at some point you got to realize that everybody is not down with this whole ideology that you might be okay with, but it's unfair for you to try to say, oh well, screw it. If you want to be able to use some of these monies that you put in, that you've paid in, these taxes that you paid into, you just need to put your kid in public school. I mean,
I,
that's ultimately what you're saying, is
that is
that
not what I'm saying.
their tax money should not be, they shouldn't be able to utilize the tax money that they pay, because it's going to go to public schools that where the poor kids and people who've been getting neglected anyway, we're going to keep sending money to places that's not benefiting our children, because we want to be able to control what your kids gets and has, and uh, ultimately is able to benefit from, because this is we want to control every portion of your life. So no,
But
fuck all that getting a better education, where you want them to
if
get
you
it from.
have the money to put your kid in private schools, that's what you're gonna do
No,
regardless. This is
they
about
will,
taking money from public schools and giving it
that
to
is not
private
that is
schools.
not no. How
Period.
about how about we look at it that they're taking money from schools that is not producing uh productive children,
We just made an example of a
of a few
district
schools that,
that's doing great,
okay, you spoke
How
of
outperforming
about
the
one.
it gives
private
You
people
schools.
a
speaking of
choice in
one.
how their tax dollars are spent?
You spoke of one school
There's
that your
other. This
kid
is a
happen to
whole
be
district
benefiting
I'm
from.
talking about. I'm talking about a whole district. It's not one school. It's a district I'm talking
Okay,
about.
well, all right. How many districts are in the state of Texas?
A lot. So I mean, we'd have to go through the list and actually,
We
pick
would, but
apart the ones that perform and the ones are not. And I'm willing to bet that the ones that are not are in inner city areas, lower
oh
income
my
folks,
God.
black and brown kids.
So
And it
let
ain't
me
no
ask this.
coincidence that that's the case.
So let
The
me
area
ask
that I'm
this.
talking about in Cy
Those
Fair is mostly
districts,
white folks.
look,
And you
those
got kids that
districts,
are taking parents that are taking their kids from the other side of town and putting them in this school because they know it's better.
okay? And that's the same type of thing that they want to do in their district, is to be able to take their kids to another school that is going to actually teach them and do better by them than these schools that they just keep wasting money in, that is not trying to really do the job that they supposed to do. Like, a lot of them don't even know how to read. Not they some of them don't even know how to say words, let alone to say comprehending the words that they're reading.
And I know this firsthand,
Because a
bro.
lot, because a
I
lot of
know
these
this
kids are
firsthand.
only saying,
I
a
went
lot
to
of these
Jack
kids are
Yates.
only saying words. They don't even understand what
I
they're
went to
saying.
Jack Yates. There was kids that graduated from Jack Yates who didn't know how to read. Literally, they were sports
Exactly.
folks. They played football, and their coaches had a lot of power in the school and put pressure on the teachers and fucking pushed them through their fucking classes, and they fucking graduated. And it was only because so they could continue to play football, because you have the no pass no play deal. So then they force the teachers to pass these kids so that the kid can fucking play football.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, they don't have nothing after they graduate because they don't even know how to fucking read. And yes,
Hmm.
it happens. But guess what? Jack Yates is like 99% black folks, okay?
But
And
no,
it's in
but
third ward. It's in a lower income community.
you
So
mentioned
there ain't no fucking
individual.
question
You
about this freaking
but
way
you
that
keep
this
it.
is
You keep
systematically
speaking on
done.
individual schools though, like that. We're talking about more than just a few schools we know of. Some of these areas just not doing what they're supposed to do, and some of them
It's
are just
systematically that way. It's not that it just so
okay.
happens
So
that the
Pat,
systematically,
school
we
this
need to
isn't a
get
operates
rid of
on
those.
discussion; it's
Tuesday.
a rant.
Systematically, we
Let,
need to get rid of those schools that's not doing the
It's
job.
not it
how do you do that? You just close the school down,
Pat.
and where
It's
do
not a
those kids have to go
discussion;
to
Yes,
it's a
school?
rant.
yes.
Let,
There's absolutely nothing going to be done to further a
let,
conversation.
let
He's
me read
not
a couple
interested in
more.
having one.
Let me read a couple more comments, and I'm gonna move
But
on.
that's how you fix it. You
This
just get rid of the school. Yes.
you just close the school. So where the kids go to school then?
You start sending them to other schools that's actually gonna uphold what they supposed to be doing. Like bruh, like why are we sending money to schools that's not teaching our children? And it's okay.
Let me read a couple comments. It says vouchers are a way for wealthy to take middle class and poor people's tax money and get a discount coupon on their private school tuition they were always going to pay. Another one it says he wants to privatize your schools like our power system, which means they will deregulate and our tax dollars will pay to teach children to eat paste. Mostly, it will do away with all special education and your child's right to an education.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Like there's just children whose right to learn and to be taught by the teachers in the schools that they're in has been violated.
The special education is especially important part of this because they don't have those kind of programs in the private schools. So, those kids are left in the public school because they need special needs, and
Well,
they're not going to get.
that doesn't mean that those all the schools have to get shut down. It's just the ones that's not producing or not willing to up their standards for our children. Like I don't really understand what's so hard about that. Like if they're not producing what we need in the school, they shouldn't be there.
Let me read a couple.
We shouldn't just keep giving them a check and paying their bills and they're not doing their part.
Let me read a couple more. It says, "I'm so tired of this type of bashing public education. They underfund and talk smack about teachers, and then they take very large donations from those who want to open private and/or charter schools for profit. It's all in the narrative, and the sad part is his followers believe it." Another one, it says, "This is how you get rid of special education budget and force it on the parents. It steals that child's constitutional right to an education. But when you only care about killing people crossing your border and your friends making money, it shows." So,
I was waiting to hear. I mean, because you feel like this is everything. Like what anything that he's done is wrong.
I hate it when you make. I never
I mean,
say.
this is